hi Marcy, and everybody joining the call. Gonna give us just a minute and then I'll get us started. There's also, I'll tell everybody who is joining the call, there is a poll that I'm going to launch for you. Just let us know who is here. So feel free to participate in that. And thank you to everybody who's joining the panel. Alrighty. We've got a lot to pack in for today and a lot of information, and I'm going to start us. I am Valerie Hogan. I manage the enrollment and marketing and lots of other things at the school, but I'm really excited to be participating and coordinating this panel for everybody to talk with our alumni about high school, the transition, and life after Waldorf. I've been working really closely with Rachel York, who I will turn it over to here shortly to introduce herself and the work that she does at the school. But I am really excited for this opportunity for our former Waldorf students to get to come back and give us lots of advice and information about how your transition has been after participating as a Richmond Waldorf School student. So thank you to everybody, students who are taking time tonight to have this conversation. I'm going to introduce Rachel York. She actually was in my position right before I started here at the school and in admissions, and has held on gratefully doing awesome work as our high school transition coordinator. So Rachel, I'll turn it to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Valerie. Yes, as Valerie said, I am the high school transition coordinator at the Waldorf School. So I've been doing this for about 5 years. So working specifically with our 8th grade class to help them prepare applications for area high schools. So that includes Richmond Public Schools, Chesterfield, Henrico, independent schools, and then some other various counties as well. So an interesting job and one I do enjoy doing. And so I have gotten to work with all of these students actually. Well, I guess Christopher and Georgia, you guys were the last class. I started working with the class after your class. But I'm excited today. And then I did want to share, prior to doing this work, I also work in college admissions. So it's been a helpful kind of lens to learn about this process. And Richmond is certainly unique in the way that we do high school admissions in the area. So lots to learn tonight and lots to share. So I'm going to be moderating tonight with Christopher Walker. And so I'm going to turn it over to him to introduce himself.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christopher. I am currently a sophomore at Georgetown University. I graduated from Waldorf in 2016, and from there I went to Maggie Walker, and now I'm at Georgetown. So I think that's about it.
Hi, I'm Georgia Chase. I also graduated from Waldorf in 2016, and then I attended Open High, and I am now a sophomore at the University of Richmond.
Hi, I'm Hayden Vick. I graduated from Waldorf in 2020. Yeah, there we go. And I'm currently in my 2nd year of sophomore at Maggie Walker.
Hi, I'm Logan Amy. I also graduated from Waldorf in 2020, and currently I'm a sophomore at Stewart.
Hi, I'm Colette. I graduated from Waldorf in 2019, and I'm a junior at Appomattox.
I think I'm asking the first question for the night to open to anybody on the panel. And it is, how did Waldorf education prepare you socially and academically for high school? What are the greatest strengths you gained from RWS? Is there anybody who wants to go first, or should I pick on somebody? Go ahead, Logan.
I think at Waldorf, communication with teachers was a very big thing. You really learned to talk with them, ask them questions. If you needed anything, you could go to them. I think also at Waldorf, problem solving was a big thing that you learned, as well as hands-on work. I learned a lot of really good study habits that really helped me in high school. That's a big thing that you need. And then also leadership skills.
And on the academic side, this is a very minor thing, though. I know my high school does, and I know a couple other ones do. If your high school has any form of language requirement, graduation credits, I believe you should have, we've Waldorf with a Latin one and either a Spanish or a Russian one credit. So those credits can usually go towards either carrying on with that language or at least being counted towards your graduation requirement in some form.
Something that I noticed when I transitioned to high school was a lot of students were extremely burnt out and not very motivated to push themselves really hard. And I think Waldorf kind of made me really interested in learning and made it something that I really enjoyed. And so going into high school, I was able to continue to be very interested in what we were learning and how things were going.
Definitely like all the stuff with the arts, because Appomattox is for the arts. So I definitely got a lot of exposure to a lot of the things that I'm doing now in high school.
I also really agree with Georgia. I feel like Waldorf really taught you to be involved in discussions, participating, answering questions, really helping each other. And I feel like a lot of other students by that time in high school are sort of burnt out.
I was trying to think of answers to this question for myself. And I think I'd agree with y'all, because what I was thinking about how, like with a lot of our work, we kind of had to make sure we learned all of it. Like with main lesson books and all that, you kind of know that at the end of the month or the end of what you're studying, you need to have that all put together. So I think that helped me kind of feel like it was my responsibility to know what I was doing in class, and have my work ready to go for whenever it was time for a test and things like that.
Are there any examples that you guys can think of social skills, like the social experience? Because these are so helpful to hear about academically. I'm curious about social experience.
Being at Waldorf, I was very comfortable being myself, finding who I was, and it was a very accepting and caring community. And I had a lot of people who supported me in no matter how I chose to express myself. And so going into high school, I was confident in who I was, and that helped me find people who were similar to me or who I got along with. And I think the community overall is just very supportive and caring, and that helps build confidence, which makes a social transition a lot easier, because it's different. It's going to a brand new school with brand new people. It might be a much bigger school, so it can be intimidating, but I think that I was very confident in myself because of Waldorf.
Well, that's great, Georgia, because that leads to our next question too, which is about the transition. So how was the transition from Waldorf to high school? And looking back, or, as you're experiencing it now, are there ways that you feel like you could have been better prepared?
Well, I'm not going to talk about the transition too much, just because I was part of grade where my transition was first to online Zoom school for a year and then in person. So I had a very unique transition that no one here will be we'll be having, so it's not worth really talking about the transitional part. But in terms of things where I felt like I wish I had known beforehand, or I wish I had bothered to like get better at, or like academically skills I wish I had more of. Obviously, I think most people notice just because everyone talks about it, but no matter where you go, you'll have a bigger homework load than Waldorf. And you'll probably want, if you aren't, you'll probably want to like practice like time management, or just having some form of a plan or schedule for that stuff, because it's important, and making sure you allot time to get it done is helpful. But besides that, like I feel studying and note taking, I mean, I know for some people they would definitely learn that, but especially on the spot note taking, because at Waldorf, most of the time when we took notes, it was very organized through like main lesson books and stuff. And it's a lot more just taking notes as the teacher's talking, like, and like not having time to like make it always look fancy or something, but just like making sure you just get the words written down as the teacher speaks and stuff. And knowing when to take notes are both things which can be very helpful, especially because the information you'll need for your actual like tests and quizzes, a lot of times it's just you're studying is just review your notes. And if you're, so it helps to be able to have good notes. And
I was lucky enough to be in person last year for most of the school year, and I felt like the transition went really well. Academically, I felt prepared. One thing that I think I could have known a little bit more about was kind of some of the technology, like citations, some of like the websites that you can use for that kind of thing, that kind of thing.
I had a really good transition to high school. I was able to like fall into all my classes, and I felt confident in them, specifically math. Being able to do math with a calculator makes math a lot easier. And at Waldorf, I did it all in my head and on paper. So when I started using a calculator, I was like, hey, this is so much faster. I can totally do this. And I transitioned very nicely. One thing that I struggled with wasn't necessarily my writing. My writing was solid, and I knew how to write everything I needed to write. But organizing research was a bit difficult for me. And then, like Logan mentioned, like MLA and Chicago style formatting was something I kind of had to figure out. But I was lucky to have teachers in high school who were very willing to sit down with me and help me. And I was very much not embarrassed or scared to like go up to them and ask for a bit of help with catching up on formatting and research.
I think things that were hard for me, where they might not have been as hard for other people, were math and science classes. It might have just been because of like the teacher or the circumstance, but that like the first half of the year, I really felt as though I was kind of behind everybody else in those classes. But like Georgia just said, I think having been at Waldorf, it kind of gave me the confidence to just ask teachers what I need to know. Like I didn't feel shy about that. And so I think with that sort of stuff, there's always going to be like the one class where it just feels really challenging. But just being able to talk to teachers, I think, is a really valuable skill you get at RWS.
And the first semester, first quarter, maybe even first year, everyone adapts at different rates, but the first bit of time is always going to be the part which feels the most uncertain and awkward, maybe like, the hardest, because like no matter where you go, it's still going to be an adjustment of some form, especially if you've been at Waldorf for a long time, like from elementary school. It's going to be the first time you've changed schools in a while. So it's going to be an adjustment period, but that's just it. It's a period. It's not a permanent thing. Like you're going, but pretty quickly you'll start to get into the like groove of your new school, and it will I mean, I'm not going to say it's never going to be challenging again. It's school. That's part of, if it wasn't challenging, it wouldn't make too much sense. But it will definitely become a lot more, comfortable. If that makes sense.
Daphne, do you want to introduce yourself and share? We're just talking about the transition from Waldorf to high school and what that was like.
Sure. Hi. Sorry, I'm Daphne. I'm not sure why I'm signed in as Colette, but I'm Daphne. I transitioned from Waldorf to a public school. So I think the biggest thing for me was just having a lot more teachers and having a lot more people in my school. And I think like something that helped me the most was like as soon as you get to your school or like as soon as possible, try and get contact with like your school counselor because they'll help you a lot with things that like your teachers can't really help you with, and you can always reach out to them and they'll always like be able to help you with things like everything that you need, and they have a lot of resources.
Something else that was like comforting to me when I was transitioning to high school, because I was very nervous about my transition to high school, which didn't really come from in me. It came from people outside Waldorf kind of telling me that my transition would be super difficult. And I internalized that and I was really scared. But when I got there, I realized like every single student here is in a transition period. This school is different than anyone's school. It's everyone's first time in high school. Everyone I knew kind of had a class. They were like, oh, I didn't learn about this. I'm kind of worried about this. And it was just reassuring to know like I'm not the only one transitioning. Every single person in my freshman class is also experiencing new teachers, new classes, new students. So that was something that kind of made me feel a bit better about my transition.
I definitely agree with that in terms of like the social transition part. I think for me, I might have internalized the idea that transitioning would be scary a little bit too much, because I think I kind of convinced myself they had the whole like bigger school being at a public high school thing figured out and I didn't, which just wasn't really true because it like people have been saying, it's everybody's first time in high school. But I think something I realized was like going to Maggie Walker, I think I had this conception that it was going to be like a nerd school where everybody was very like focused on their studies and really into all that. But it really wasn't. Like it was just any other school where you have a whole bunch of different people interested in different things and doing that in different ways. So I think like to the extent you can just be comfortable and be yourself, that's awesome with transitioning. And it makes meeting people, I think, a whole lot easier.
And when it comes to just the fact there will be new people and lots of new people, I mean, I think even if you like some of the smallest high schools, it's still going to be bigger than Waldorf, especially because Waldorf is taking into account like everyone that's K through 8 and wherever you go is going to be just a high school. It's not like you're going to have all those people in each of your classes. Your classes will still be like probably in like, at least for me, they're high teens to like high 20s, somewhere in that range. I don't know if that's consistent for everyone, but I assume it is just because you can only fit so many people in a classroom within reason. So this overall population may be higher, but the amount of people you will at any one time be in a room with, especially for like your classes, won't change that much. And also it gives you like a chance to meet new people who maybe have interests that just no one at Waldorf had, because there's a much bigger group of people there. It's very easy to find people which you have stuff in common with if you look hard enough.
And also, like, you can talk, it's fine.
Okay. I think also with social skills, trying to find friends. I think clubs and sports are really great for that because you find people that are interested in the same things as you. I found that soccer in the spring was really great finding new people. Maybe I didn't have classes with them, but I still saw them in the hallways and were friends with them.
And also, like, even if a teacher's class is really hard, they don't want to fail you. So if you meet with them and talk to them about it, they're going to help you through it. So even if you think they
I think we might have lost Colette. Maybe she'll come back.
I do. She was talking about talking to teachers. And I'm in college now. I'm a sophomore in college. And I really do think Waldorf helped me know how to communicate with adults, how to make eye contact when talking to adults, how to shake someone's hand. Because our class was so small and it was so easy to communicate with our teachers. And I went to Open, which had maybe 200 students, so it was still relatively small. And I was also really able to form relationships with my teachers and communicate with them. And now in college, being able to communicate with your professors is extremely important. It can help you so much along the way. And I really think that was something that Waldorf helped me be able to do, was be confident in communicating and asking for help and asking for assistance.
In terms of the college experience, I definitely agree. I think in high school and especially in college, teachers or professors, like they might seem scary in class, but at things like office hours and stuff like that, generally what they're teaching about is stuff they're interested in and excited to talk to people about. So you being there, like, I don't think they feel grumpy or resentful about that. I think, like, when you just go and ask them a genuine question, that's exciting for them because it's somebody who, like, has been an active learner in their class and they feel like they're doing a good job. So yeah, I think asking questions is good, and that Waldorf helps with that is also good.
This probably goes without saying, but also teachers are more happy to help and be like, they want, obviously they want us to be interested. So when people show interest, they tend to want to act and help keep that interest alive and stuff. But also they tend to be in a better mood for all this if, their class is just in general cooperative, which I know all you all are going to be cooperative. But like, Waldorf kids, we're all pretty cooperative in general and polite to teachers, but I'm just saying, like, if there's ever a day where they like seem off for that day, maybe just they have off days too. I don't want anyone to get like the wrong impression of a teacher just because of an off day, or especially because some kids do not have much respect for teachers going to high school and will take any advantage to kind of like say negatives about a teacher before you've even had them. Do not let those negatives like give you a preconception of what that teacher will be like, because a lot of kids, it's either a personal thing or they just exaggerate the teacher's negatives and never mention any good things about them, and you'll end up like starting their class with a really wrong opinion of the teacher.
Yeah, kind of building off what Aiden just said, I feel like forming a really good relationship with your teachers early in the year is really helpful for the rest of your year. And then also for the rest of like your time in school there. because if they find that you're engaged, want to learn, and are enjoying their class, then they'll like you and they'll want to help you through school.
And also your teachers might be writing your letters of recommendation for colleges and stuff. So if you have a good connection with them, then they're more likely to write a good letter. So you want to be nice to your teachers.
If y'all want, I can go ahead and ask our next question. Let me see. What is or was your favorite part about your high school? Why did you choose the high school you attended? Did it meet your expectations, and in what ways?
I really loved high school. Open is pretty small, so I was able to really form relationships with all of my teachers, which was really amazing. Students are given a lot of power in their own, we're not power, but we could call our teachers by their first name. We have off-campus lunch. We're given a lot of responsibility, and you're allowed to kind of be your own person. It was a very accepting school. Everyone was allowed to be themselves, and that was really nice. Overall, I had a really good experience in high school. I really loved Open.
Reason I chose my school, well, there's a lot of personal reasons which aren't really relevant to other people, so it's not, I don't think they're worth going into, but like general reason is just it, like if you look at the class schedule, it's not just like you have a bunch of the basic academic classes, but you also have a lot of like different routes and paths you can take at Maggie, and a lot of like selection in terms of what you take, and which so you can kind of customize your schedule to be around your area of interest. Obviously, to different extents depending on your area of interest, because if you have a more like standardized, like if your interest is history, you have a lot more options than certain like niche interests, but you still have like classes in most areas. And then in terms of my expectations, well, I had two main expectations coming in. That was one of them. It was met. The other one was I would have a lot of homework. It was met, but there is also like, there is a lot of work, but the teachers know that. And so they'll try to, they maybe can't always give you extra time, but they try to like very much either ahead of time teach you like ways of getting ahead on their homework, or like teach you, try to like tell you ahead of time, like, hey, you're gonna want to set time aside for this. And also between the ability to like just like if you feel like you want to, I took a study hall my first year because to help me adjust to the homework load. Obviously that may not be what everyone wants to do, but it's worth considering. And if it's an option to, not for every year, but like especially for your first year, to give yourself like more time to transition in a way. But that, and then teachers also tend to like, yeah, as I said, I'm just gonna kind of repeat myself if I keep talking, so I'm gonna pass it on to someone else.
When I was looking for a high school, I was looking for a well-rounded education with sports. I really enjoyed the arts, and then also a really good academic experience. And I found that at Stewart, it has small class sizes, so it's easy to communicate with teachers. There's definitely a lot of focus on you. The sports are slightly competitive, but if you have any background, I'm sure you could probably make it on there on the sports teams. One thing that I did experience that was definitely different and something that I didn't really like was a level of racism that you don't really experience at all at Waldorf. So that was definitely something new. Yeah.
And the other thing, which unfortunately is probably wherever you go to school, there'll be, it may, obviously every school has its own levels of different problems, but wherever you go, it's hard to find a place with as, I guess, generally nice of a community as Waldorf has. So, I mean, the overall community at a lot of places will still be very nice. It's not like you'll be overwhelmingly so, but they'll definitely more likely find a couple more negative people wherever you go. But don't just it's not like they're gonna want to. They're not gonna be being negative towards you. It'll just be negative in general. And like, I'm not saying to ignore them, but I'm saying like, don't let one or two kind of like negative mean people like fully ruin experience. I'm not saying to ignore them or not like speak up if they're saying something wrong. I'm just saying like, don't get so consumed by them that like you don't get to enjoy anything else at your school. Like, it's important to still keep like, you want to make school enjoyable for yourself, because you're going to be wherever you end up going, you're going to be there probably for 4 years. Obviously things can change, but most likely go there with the assumption you'll be there for 4 years. And so you don't want to do anything, like you want to make sure that you will enjoy yourself there, because you aren't leaving very quickly.
Colette, are you there and able to speak to about your high school and what you've enjoyed and your expectations?
If Colette's not there, I can try and say something. I think in terms of like high school and community, like we've been talking about, I think as compared to Waldorf, where you kind of have a place in the community by default because there's so few people. A lot of times it was hard to tell like what my role was or like how I was connected to everybody, because it just felt bigger and different. And at Waldorf, it sort of felt like you were friends with everyone. And at high school, because there's so many people, it just isn't the same way. So a lot of times I felt like, oh, like, should I be hanging out more with my friends or should I have more friends? So that was something that was less fun about high school, but I think a lot of that can just be a personal thing where if you decide like you're happy with the friends you have, and that like you're just doing okay, which I think everybody is, then you'll be fine. In terms of things I enjoyed about high school, I don't know. I think there were a lot of classes that I enjoyed and enjoyed talking to my classmates in, and feeling like I was learning something. I met some friends that I'm still friends with, so that's good. Yeah, I think there are a lot of positives that come out of it, even with some of the negative things.
One thing that I did really like about Steward, and I think this is probably seen in most private schools, is small class sizes, and then you're able to pursue a lot of different things. In Waldorf, you learn an instrument, you play art. I mean, you do art, you paint, you learn a language. And I think in private schools, you can, whichever one of those you feel passionate about, you can follow that. And then also the small class sizes and the really involved teachers make learning fun, which I really think is similar to Waldorf. And that's why I think the transition was very easy. The classes were very similar to how Waldorf classes were operated. It was a teacher, small class, and they kind of just had a personal learning experience with you.
I'd love to hear you all talk a little bit about what some of your goals are. So what you're hoping to do with the rest of your high school experience, what you're hoping to do with college, what you're thinking about for beyond. Can you just share a little bit about what some of your hopes are for the future?
Sure. My general field of interest is STEM, and particularly programming and computer science. So I'm taking classes and that are doing that. Like this year, I'm taking AP Computer Science Principles. I'm also involved in my school's like programming club, and I'm on my school's robotics team. And that is the area which I want to focus on and continue taking classes and courses related to and developing as I move on with high school. That's where I'm going to go for college or college ideas. I want to keep learning about that, and that would be one of the main things I look into. But I'll be honest, I'm not done too much college research yet. Probably not as much as I should have, but I have 2 more years. And then beyond college, I would want to stay in that area and find some job doing that. Yeah, in terms of like what other interests and courses I'm taking obviously a variety of things in standardized subjects, different things in math and history, English, etc. I've continued taking Latin, so I'm now in Latin 3. And I am still playing violin and I'm in my school orchestra, so continue on those things.
As I said, I'm a sophomore at the University of Richmond. I'm an environmental science major and I'm minoring in anthropology. My plan is to graduate, and hopefully I want to work in specifically urban green spaces and work with environmental justice and environmental racism. And yeah, that's kind of my plan.
For the rest of high school, for my junior and senior year, I will probably be transferring out of Steward. And then beyond that, I really enjoy physics and engineering, so I'll probably try to pursue that in college. Right now, I'm really enjoying art. The visual arts is really great. I learned a lot of it at Steward, so I'm really one of the top in my class. And it's just something that I really enjoy. Freshman year, I took physics and really enjoyed it. So probably junior or senior year, I'd really like to take AP physics. And then in college, probably pursue something in engineering.
As compared to Georgia, I don't have my major decided at all, which I have to do soon. And I don't know that I have many more ideas than I had in 8th grade about what I want to do. So we'll see how that goes. But in terms of future plans, and I just want to say for like college planning and all that, sophomore year in high school, I don't really think you need to think about it. If you're in 8th grade, definitely don't think about it. Don't think about that at all. I don't know. I continue taking Russian in high school because that was an option at Maggie Walker. Not really out of like specific desire, but just because it had been what I was doing. And I also did that in college. So now I have to decide kind of, do I want to make that a part of a major or minor, or do I want to do something else with kind of like the credits I'm doing, which I'm not sure what a job that would look like. But I think at Waldorf, a lot of the stuff we did was based around like ways to help the people you know and help your community. So whatever my job is, I think I want it to be something like that. That's where I'm at right now.
Okay, Colette, I hope you'll chime in if you're still there.
Guys, there's Zoom difficulties are our reality. I don't know if Colette, if you're here, and Daphne's somehow in our participants, but we'll get there.
So I'd love to hear you guys reflect a little bit on the high school application process. What do you remember about it? And we've heard some kind of recommendations for the class, but if there's anything that stands out to you, yeah, I'd just love to hear you talk a little bit about what that was like, because we have our 8th grade class and their families, you know, kind of starting that process now with the first round of deadlines coming up at the first of the next month.
I know one of the things at Open, and I think at a few of the other high schools, I know Community, they interview you. So at Open, it's a teacher and 2 students who interview you. And that went really well for me. Like I was talking about, communication is something that I really think Waldorf helped me with, being able to communicate what I'm thinking. And I went into it very confident, and it went very well.
At Appomattox, it's mainly based on like your audition. So whatever you're passionate about in the arts or technology, you're gonna have to go in and show them. And it sounds a lot more stressful ahead of time, but it's really not that bad. It's just you're head of your department and they just evaluate your skills.
And Colette, what's your focus area at Appomattox?
I'm a theater arts major.
And one day, my application process for MAG at least is probably gonna be different than yours. I'm pretty sure that you, if I've heard correctly, you all have essays now as part of it. And you have a less of a focus on the actual entry test, which mine was pretty much solely determined by entry test and I think teacher recommendations. So I won't speak too much to that specifically, but in general, I know a lot of high schools when I did it, and I assume still currently, probably even more now, because of what I just mentioned, do have essays that you write that are usually about like why you want to be there or something about yourself. They're not like, explain to me why so-and-so did what and what. They're not like history papers. They're papers about you. And that's really in the end what they want to learn. They just want to learn about you. So just be yourself when writing those. I wouldn't don't try to exaggerate things. Don't try to figure out exactly who they want and then try to be that person. Be who you are and make it so they want who you are. Like, take that approach to it. I've never been great at essay writing, but from a theoretical standpoint, that's definitely something you should work on. And don't procrastinate these essays because you will have them from multiple schools and they do have submission due dates. So please do not start them, say, I don't know, a week before they are due to be submitted, because that's a habit you don't want to have and don't want to keep in the high school. I'm trying to tell this to myself, but I'm still not going to listen, but you should.
I was about to say the same thing as Aiden, that you should make sure to start on those essays soon, or early on, because they can really pile up if you have 3 or 4 for each school. Most school, or a lot of schools, also have like an entry test of some sort. You can usually practice for those. It is definitely a style of test that Waldorf, we haven't really done at all. So I definitely just look at like a booklet. Maybe Mr. Trostley, I'm sure he has one in the class, so I just look at that a little bit. Interviews, Mr. Trostley actually prepped me, which I thought was very helpful. Also talking about, like Aiden was talking about with the papers, talking about yourself and everything that you've done. Waldorf, you do a lot of different things, and I'm sure schools love hearing about the diversity and the things that you enjoy doing. So I think focusing on those many different aspects of your education and arts program and everything that you do is definitely going to make schools really like you.
I think for me, when it came to essays, or just if I have any advice in general, is write about what you want to write about, and kind of do it how you want to do it. Because this is kind of standard advice, but they have a whole lot to look at in terms of the essays. So I think the best thing you can do is just kind of write the way you want to. Obviously, there's a bunch of people at RWS and probably people who in your life who can help with kind of like the structure of your essay in terms of how you write it. But at the end of the day, like it should be something that like you're excited to write about. With some of the prompts, it's kind of hard because they seem a little silly. And then when it comes to interviews, I think it's just sort of the same thing. Like you can use it as an opportunity to talk about what you want to talk about. I know with my open interview, I think I just kind of answered the questions and didn't really like present myself in like a way that's like, here's who I am. I just kind of said like, this is my answer. So I know it definitely went less well for me. But I think everybody like in the audience with what you do at Waldorf every day, just talking to people, that'll be solid prep for all that stuff.
Well, and Daphne and Colette, we haven't had a chance to hear too much from you guys. Are you either of you able to share a little bit about your experience so far at high school? Has it met your expectations? What are you enjoying there currently?
Oh, I was sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. It's definitely a lot, even though I've been there for 3 years. But there's always stuff going on, and there's always plays and stuff going on specifically for my focus area. There's lots of group activities, and it's a relatively small school. It's about 350 people, so it's not too much bigger than RWS. But there's all this stuff where you can get to know your classmates and just really connect with your peers.
And I think another thing that I really experienced in high school as compared to Waldorf is just the amount of freedom that you get in general. There's a lot more just overall general freedom in high school than what you'll get at Waldorf. And I noticed a lot more diversity, which is something that really stood out to me about high school and was something that I kind of looked for. And when I was applying, is that there's so many more different types of people. And so meeting new people is probably one of my favorite things about it.
That's great. And Daphne, you're at the Humanities Specialty Center, right? Will you tell us a little bit about being at a specialty center within a larger high school and what that's like?
Yeah, so in Henrico, there's multiple specialty centers, and basically it's I always kind of describe it as a school within a school. So it's a lot more like Waldorf in that way, that there's a smaller amount of people, and it's still in the normal high school. And so you'll have some classes with people who aren't in the center with you, but you have some core classes and some elective classes in the center. And depending on what center you choose, that will change. Personally, I'm in the Humanities Center, so it's more English and history and arts based. And so for that means my English class and my history class are both AP classes, so I have to take more advanced history and English classes. But if you were in, say, my older brother did the engineering center, then he would have more math classes, So it depends on like what center you're in. But it's a lot more, your education will be more specialized toward what you choose.
Thank you. Well, with our remaining time, we were hoping you all might want to share maybe a favorite Waldorf memory.
One of my favorite memories at Waldorf, me and Christopher were in the same class, so he'll remember this. My teacher was Miss Claudia, and starting in first grade, she started a tradition for us. The last day of school every year, we would take off our shoes and we would run down the hallway and scream. And that was something I did through first grade to eighth grade because I was at Waldorf beginning in kindergarten. And I don't know, I love that so much. It's a really special memory for me. And it was something that was special to my whole class. I remember that. So that's something I loved.
I really enjoyed the bike trip, our 8th grade bike trip. That was just really fun. It was something new that Waldorf hadn't really done before that. Biking is a big part of my life, so I liked kind of sharing that with the whole class. And I just thought it was really fun.
I was always a big fan of our field trips that we would have, so I really enjoyed in particular our 7th grade one, because, well, I think I probably would have enjoyed our 8th grade one, that we were a class which didn't have the 8th grade trip because COVID. Yeah, our 7th grade trip, we went to, I don't know exactly what the name of the place was, but it was just, we went to a park. So a lot of people stayed in tents overnight. Some people like me stayed in a couple bedrooms in this house that we were like, I don't know if we were renting it, but we were like using this house that was next to like the campsite for a night, and there for one or two nights, and we did a variety of things. We just hung out. There was like a zip line course a lot of people did. We went like, I don't know if it was kayaking or canoeing. I'm so bad with the difference between those things. But we did that. We just hung out in general. I enjoyed that a lot. Same thing with the fall skate trip in 4th grade. I really enjoyed those field trips. So because I have not gotten to have field trips yet since I've been to high school. So I mean, I did have my entire first year online. So don't take that as like a standard of what your high school will be like. But I have not had field trips since Waldorf. So that's something I definitely miss.
I would say our 8th grade trip was really special. We were on a sailboat for a week, and it was really fun to just be there with my classmates and be out on the water for a while because I personally love sailing. And when we came back, we just pretty much left. So it was like our last sort of final trip together. It was really fun.
I think one of my favorite Waldorf memories was in 7th and 8th grade, we took a trip. We went on a field trip it was a book fair at a college, and I can't remember the name now. But it was our whole class that went, and I think in 8th grade we brought the 7th grade class with us as well. But I just remember being there, and it was one of my favorite memories. And I think everybody kind of said field trips.
I've been thinking about a lot of things, but I think something I'll go with was starting in first grade. Like Georgia said, we were in the same class and we both had Miss Claudia together. Something that those of us who got in trouble would do were reminder pictures, which is where we would draw the desired action that people should be doing versus whatever they were doing. That was not what the teacher wanted. And sometimes we reached a level in class where there were class reminder pictures where everybody had to draw one. And so that was kind of very upsetting for me at the time. But I think it was a nice moment to learn about like group responsibility. And I feel like, you know, we kind of bonded in those moments. So looking back, that's a fun one for me.
I think also, I know I already said one, but a thing that I think about most when I think back to Waldorf is like getting to have recess every day, and our recesses were always so fun. And that's probably the thing that I miss the most, like other than obviously the people, is that like it's just being able to be outside and the amount of time that we got to spend outside and having recess.
That was like having a break in the middle of a day is really nice. And that was something at Open. We get an hour long lunch, and starting freshman year, you're allowed to have off-campus lunch. And it was really nice to still be able to have a break in my day where I could step outside, walk to the park, go get food. So that was something that I really liked about Open.
Just to follow up on that, last school year, second semester, I was living with some friends who were also on Zoom. So we kind of had the Zoom routine where everybody was doing Zoom classes. And I think felt very tired out by that. But we were living close to like a school that was closed, so the playground was just free. And sometimes we just take an hour out of the day to go there and like throw a frisbee around. Or just swing on the swings. And whenever we get done, they were like, oh man, that was so great. That was so great. Like that, you know, that's what I need. And I was like, I know, right? Like just having that part of the day where you can just kind of have like time to hang out with your friends and just be active together or just talk was something, if I didn't consciously learn it, was something like we were subconsciously practicing that was helpful later.
This has been so great. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we end our session?
None that are generally relevant, though. If you want, I could like put my school email in the chat so that if someone wants to like ask me questions about Maggie specifically, they could do it some like time out of this session, just because if they have like specific questions, I may be able to answer them.
Yeah, I could definitely do that as well.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions about Open. But just as a general message to any 8th graders who are listening, I know it's kind of scary and stressful applying to high schools. But in the end, you'll end up where you end up, and I'm sure it'll be amazing. And yeah, and everything will be good.
I can definitely do the email thing too. I'm really slow about responding. Well, sometimes I'm slow to respond to emails. Maggie Walker I applied a long time ago, I guess. But also in terms of general messages, what Georgia said, and I think the best thing you can do is just know that like whatever you're doing is probably the right thing. There may be times where it seems like other people like in high school have it more figured out or whatever. But I think generally you can just trust your gut, and like there's people you want to hang out with or like don't want to hang out with, just think you can like just trust yourself to make the right decisions. You don't really have to worry about that.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. It sounds like we'll be able to share some emails for anyone who may want to be in touch with our panelists to get some specific questions. And we can figure out the logistics of doing that. But thank you to our panelists for taking time out of your evenings to be here.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I will, anybody who's on the call, please feel free to connect with me. I can connect you with any of these awesome alumni. I am so impressed and just proud of each of you. And I hope that everybody who was listening was feeling the same way. And thank you all for making time to share your experiences. It's very, it feels really good to know there's such awesome humans out in the world who've come from Richmond Waldorf School, and you're off to amazing things. And thank you to the panelists or the attendees rather, who tuned in tonight. And yeah, I hope everyone has a great evening. Bye.
Bye.